Started when my colleague Brian Conley traveled to the Middle East late 2005, about October. And he originally started just wanting to go to Iraq and shooting interviews with Iraqis because he knew that he couldn't actually take Iraqis from Iraq and show them around America and make them do speaking tours and that kind of stuff. And usually when they do that, because there are a few Iraqis who do that, it's all in English, and they come from a very specific class of people who are able to speak English. So he wanted to talk to Iraqis, as many Iraqis as he could. So if he filmed all these interviews, we could get them translated, and then we could just show the videos. And then we could talk to a lot more different people and show a lot more voices. So he originally just went to Baghdad to do that. And he met a fixer named Omar, and Omar Abdullah. And Omar, one night they were hanging out, and Omar had the idea that he said, you know what we should do? We should start a TV show, a news program, and that's what we should do every week. They all live in different parts of the city. They're all different ages, and there's a few different, we have a couple Sunnis and a couple Shiites. And so it allows for a lot of diversity as far as our coverage goes. And we're able to get into Sadr City, we're able to get into Adamiyah, is because the electricity situation there is so bad. And also a lot of the guys have families, and editing takes a long time. So for them to both shoot and edit would be very time consuming for them. So originally it started as a way to solve those problems for them. But it's also been a great advantage to the project, I think, because I think it's really helped give the material, the international perspective that has really helped make the program stand out. The way it's shot is very intimate, and it's very immediate between the people, and then giving it that step back as far as someone else editing it in a different country weeks later. It really allows the material to stand on its own. We use very new technologies, but very old news practices, because our program works very much in the same way of old school news journalism, television broadcast. And you would have people who go out and they shoot the story, and they bring back the tapes, and there's an editor there, and he puts them all together. Because I consider the guys who do work for us in Baghdad, the guys who work with us in Baghdad, to be journalists. I think it's a different kind of journalism, if you want to get that specific, but I don't think it's any less valid. I think it's just as valid as going to a press conference and asking a man in charge some questions. For the most part, they like us, but they like us to talk about us not as journalists. They like to talk about us as video bloggers, as podcasters, using a lot of terms that make a clear distinction between us and them, because they want to be considered, we are journalists, you are not. Again, I don't want to say we're any better than other journalists, but it is more dangerous, and it is much more riskier, but it's something that a lot of the guys who work for us, they're very proud to do it, and it's something that they feel is very important to do. They want to help tell the world about what's going on in Iraq. And we've always been able to pay them, but the guys have always said, listen, if you can't pay me, I'm still going to shoot things, and it might not be as much, but I still want to shoot things to help tell the world about Iraq. And it's a very personal experience for them, and I think that's one of the big advantages to the project, because they do feel so committed. A lot of journalists just consider it a job, and they clock in, they ask the few questions that they're expected to ask, and then they clock out and they give the article. The news coverage that was coming out of Iraq was very typical as far as, the past 50 years. It was always talking about Iraqis. It wasn't talking to Iraqis, and that's what, with the technology available today, it's so cheap to do this project. It's a few $1,000s a month. It's really not that expensive, and it's something that could not have been done 30 years ago, even 15 years ago. And we have global distribution. We have people who watch the show on every continent. And it's only because of things like RSS and podcasts and all of these things. It's very dangerous for them because their shows are very costly and they make a lot of money on them. And if all of a sudden people who are making media for a fraction of the cost are beating them, that doesn't look good, and it rocks a lot of boats. So I think it's going to be very tense as far as everyone's approaching very slowly, but everyone sees that it's coming together. And like anything else, the people who have the power want to keep that power.